Hello friend, welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Becky. If you're new, this is Acre Homestead, and today we are going to be making some dinner in the Instant Pot. Normally for quick and easy meals, what I like to do is pull out freezer meals from my freezer that I have made myself. But if you've been around here, you know we had a big freezer accident and I have no freezer meals left. I have not utilized my Instant Pot enough. My sister-in-law loves her Instant Pot, and I was talking to her, we were hanging out over the weekend, and this is her Instant Pot cookbook, and all the blue tabs in here, there's a ton of blue tabs, are her favorite recipes. I read through it and I put yellow, some of them are the same as hers, some of them are new tabs that I want to try. So this whole week we are going to be doing Instant Pot meals, and we are going to try to utilize our Instant Pot better. Now the first one, I gave Josh a list of the ones that I want to make this week. I've got 5 recipes here, and I asked him which one he wanted me to try. And he wants the dreamy chicken recipe. So we're gonna start with that. And I will link this book. This is the Ultimate Instant Pot Cookbook. And if I can find the recipes online, I will link them as well. So check out the description box if you want to make any of these recipes yourself. They're all new to me, and I am going to follow the recipe to the T on all of these recipes. Because they're new to me, I want to learn how to use my Instant Pot, and then if it goes well, I can tweak the recipes if I want to make them again. But the first thing we're going to do is get our Instant Pot set up. This is an all-in-one recipe. It's got our protein and our rice in it. So this is the dreamy chicken and rice recipe. And then I did go out into the garden and I harvested a bunch of produce. So we will also be having some sort of veggie side, but I'm not exactly sure yet. Maybe I'll text Josh and ask him what he wants for his veggie side. The first thing I'm going to do is turn on the Instant Pot to saute, and then we need to add butter to it, and we're going to saute the onions and the chicken in butter, and we need 4 tablespoons. So this is 1 cup, so I'm going to do 4 tablespoons in there. These recipes all serve 4 people, it says. Oh, I have a zucchini bread in the oven. I just harvested the zucchini and I wanted to make zucchini bread, so I did. That's not quite done yet. I'm going to set that timer for another 5 minutes. Now I'm going to add some salt. The recipe calls for 1.5 pounds of chicken breast cut into diced pieces. And so that's what I'm going to do here next. The recipe calls for 3 cloves of garlic. That's about this puck here. That's some homegrown garlic I froze in little pucks. I'm going to let that melt in here. And our onions are basically done. So we're going to add our chicken and we're going to saute this for, it says, about 5 minutes or until cooked. This is starting to smell so good with the garlic and the onions and the butter. I'm gonna let this keep cooking. So now we're gonna add 1.5 cups of rice. And then it says we need 3 to 4 cups of chicken broth, depending on what consistency we like. I'm gonna put 4 cups, but I just wanna make sure I don't have more than that in my jar, because this is a candy jar. This is homemade chicken broth, and it looks like it's 3 3/4 cup. So I'm going to put 1/4 cup of water in here. Now I'm going to pour that into our chicken and onion mixture. It says stir it so that the chicken is on the top and the rice kind of settles to the bottom of the pan. And then we're going to add some salt. We never seasoned the chicken, and some pepper. We like a lot of pepper. It didn't say how much exactly, so I'm just gonna season to what I think looks good. And it says some fresh lemon juice. So I'm gonna put half of this lemon in here. Now we're supposed to put it on manual for 8 minutes, and natural release for 2 minutes. Our main dish is basically almost done. It's got one more ingredient and obviously the taste test. So we're gonna get going on the side here. I had a couple options when it came to the veggie, what is coming out of the garden right now. I've got a ton of fresh lettuce. I have this basket. We have some zucchinis, summer squash, peppers. I have cabbage and lettuce. But what I think I want to have for dinner tonight are some snow peas. So these are freshly harvested. They're already washed. I have a little bit of avocado oil and some butter, and we're gonna blister these in this cast iron. This is not even a recipe. It takes seconds to do. So I'm gonna let this cast iron get really, really hot, and then we'll add our snow peas. Once the cast iron is blistering hot, I throw the snow peas in there. I let them sit. I do not touch them for a good 4 or 5 minutes until they get golden brown like this. I throw some salt and pepper on there, and then I turn the cast iron off or the stove off, and that is tonight's dinner side dish. Absolutely delicious. Like I said, I don't even know if you can call that a recipe, but if you don't have snow peas, you can do that same thing with sugar snap peas that you get at the grocery store. I just loaded all my dishes from dinner, and Instant Pot is basically at pressure now, so now we just wait for dinner to be done. I don't use my crock pot a lot. I don't use my Instant Pot a lot. I use my Instant Pot a lot for making single ingredient things, cooking dried beans, making broth, making rice, but I don't utilize it in making whole meals. So I'm really excited about this because I think this is gonna be a winner. And I'm glad Josh picked this recipe first. We are at exactly 2 minutes. So I'm going to really, oh, you know what I should do? I never do that, so I forgot. I'm gonna put a towel on that while that steams. And then I got out our last ingredient here. We're gonna add as soon as we can open this up. All right, let's open this up. It smells incredible. Oh my gosh, this looks so delicious. This is one of my sister-in-law's absolute favorite Instant Pot recipes. The rice, to me, before I stir it, looks perfectly cooked. The next ingredient we're gonna add, and this is the final one until we do the taste test, is 1 cup of Parmesan sugar. And it said you can add a little more liquid if you need to, but this, I don't think needs any more liquid. They said it's gonna be a little bit like the consistency of risotto, which this is. Maybe if I had done the 3 cups, it would be a little less kind of sticky, but it smells incredible. I'm gonna let that Parmesan cheese sit in this warmth for a second and kind of melt. It's gonna be super, super hot. That is delicious. That is so good. I think what I would do next time is probably do 3 cups of chicken broth because it's a little bit on the runnier side. It's definitely more the consistency of, say, a risotto, but when it cools off, it'll probably kind of thicken up a little bit. I wonder if I could make risotto cakes out of this. But this definitely is more than 4 servings for Josh and I. And then I'm gonna serve it up with some of these snow peas. I actually went out to the garden and just harvested a bunch more of these. And that right there is a beautiful, delicious dinner. I'm gonna dish up myself. This is for Josh, and then we're gonna sit down and probably sit outside and have a really yummy dinner out on the porch. I got to serve up myself. I hope you give these snow peas a try because they are so good. And you can use, like I said, sugar snap peas taste just as good with it cooked up this way. And if you don't have a cast iron, just use your heaviest bottom pan that you have. So thank you for being here. I'll see you tomorrow. Good morning. It is time to make some breakfast. We are gonna make breakfast in the Instant Pot this morning. I was going through the recipes and this one sounded so good and so easy. A way to not only make breakfast this morning, but it's gonna meal prep for the next few days for Josh and I. So what we're gonna make, it's on page 17 in the Ultimate Instant Pot Cookbook. We're gonna make pumpkin steel cut oats, but we're not gonna make pumpkin, we're gonna make zucchini because 'tis the season for zucchini, not pumpkin. So I'm just gonna do one substitution and everything else I'm gonna make exactly the same. And then for dinner, we are going to use some of these fresh veggies from the garden. The onions aren't from the garden, but the rest of it is, to make some pork tinga tacos. I've never made that before, and I asked Josh earlier today what he wanted for dinner. I gave him a list of options. We need to get this onto saute, and that's gonna saute there. And he wanted tacos, which is perfect because out of the different recipes I have chosen out of this cookbook, this one is gonna be a little bit, not necessarily labor intensive for the main dish, what we're gonna make in the Instant Pot. That's still gonna be super easy, but I'm gonna make a few sides to top our tacos, and that's gonna take a little bit more work. And I happen to have a little bit more time this morning to kind of prep some of those dishes. So we're gonna have pork tinga tacos for dinner with homemade pico de gallo and pickled onions and lettuce from the garden. So now what we're gonna do, I have made steel cut oats in the Instant Pot many times, but what I've not done, and this is what this recipe calls to do, is to saute the steel cut oats in some butter first, and we're gonna toast the oats in the Instant Pot, and that should kind of develop the flavor just a little bit. While that's going, I'm gonna shred up our zucchini. This has been sauteing for about 4 minutes to 5 minutes. The steel cut oats are very aromatic. They smell delicious and they're lightly toasted. So now I'm gonna add some salt, our pumpkin pie spice, and I'm gonna toast the pumpkin pie spice in the butter as well, and that will help draw out the flavors. A lot of flavor compounds in spices are fat soluble, so it does help to toast them. And I can smell that now, so I'm gonna go ahead and put in the zucchini. And now I'm gonna put 4.5 cups of water. The last ingredient is 1/4 cup of maple syrup. I'm just gonna eyeball that. Now we're gonna set the Instant Pot on manual for 12 minutes. Now we have breakfast done, we can get going on dinner. I'm gonna get going on the sides first, kind of like the toppings and things. So the first thing I'm gonna do is make some pico de gallo out of these beautiful orange cherry tomatoes. And while I'm doing this, I wanted to talk to you about yesterday's dinner and what Josh thought of it. He loved it. It's definitely a winner. It will be a recipe we make over and over, and it was so easy. It was great to start with such an easy recipe. But now that I have made it once, I was thinking last night, what would I have done differently, or what will I do differently moving forward? Instead of cooking the onion and sauteing the onion first and then sauteing the chicken, I would reverse the order because the chicken didn't have very much texture to it because it didn't get browned and golden because it kind of steamed in the Instant Pot once the onions were in there releasing all of their liquid. So next time I make it, which I absolutely will make that recipe again, I will go ahead and, you know what, I think I'm gonna use the food processor to make this pico de gallo, just because that will be a lot easier. But that way I'll get a nice texture on the chicken, and there'll be a little bit more of a textural difference between the chicken and the rice. But that's the only thing I would change. Josh, I actually didn't ask him for a rating, what he thought, you know, 1 out of 10. He just said it was delicious and he wants me to make it again, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get my food processor out. I have the pork thawing. I had to get it out of the freezer this morning. I didn't get it out last night, so that's thawing. So that's perfect. It will be, should be thawed by the time it's time to make dinner tonight. Before it gets too warm this morning, I want to come out and grab a couple ingredients for tonight's dinner. I'm gonna get some more lettuce. We have all the garden goodies washed up. I'm gonna put about half of the cilantro I harvested in here. I think I'm gonna put 1 jalapeno in here. I don't want this to be too hot, and I have tasted these jalapenos and they are hot. I'm just gonna dice that up just a little bit. Then I'm gonna put half of this white onion in. Some pepper, cumin, garlic, good amount of salt. And I'm gonna put the juice of 2 lemons. If I had limes, I would put those, but I only have lemons today. Oop. Perfect. Doesn't need anything. The first garden salsa, and probably the only cilantro that is going to be really coming out of the garden because it's just getting too warm. But look at that beauty. I was going to put red onion in it, but I thought because I used orange tomatoes that the purple and orange would kind of make it look brown. How beautiful is that? So our Instant Pot is done. It now needs to do the regular release for 10 minutes before we open it up for breakfast. But one of the sides for dinner is all done. I'm gonna make some pickled onions and pickled radish and jalapeno to top our burgers because this recipe is very rich and I think it's gonna need a pickle to kind of cut through that. So I've got a small mason jar and a large mason jar. I'm gonna add some of our pickling ingredients. I've got full written recipes. I can link for these down below, but I never really measure. I kind of just eyeball things. So a little bit of sugar in each jar and then some salt. This is a quick pickle, so really easy. I'm gonna put the onions in the quart jar. And I like to put the vegetables in first so then I know how much vinegar to put in and water. I'm going to fill each jar about 1/3 the way with water. And then I'm going to top it with red wine vinegar. I'm going to put my leak-proof lids on, give them a good shake, and I'm going to let it sit all day in the refrigerator, and the sugar and salt will dissolve by the time it's dinner time. You can make quick pickles out of really any vegetable and any vinegar. You can really play around. You could do all vinegar, you could do half water, half vinegar. You can really just play around. Josh and I like it pretty zippy, so that's how we do it. About 1/3 vinegar, about 1/3 water, the rest vinegar, and there we go. We got 2 toppings. These will last in the refrigerator for a very long time because clearly this is more pickled veggie than we can go through tonight. So our steel cut oats are ready to dig into. I'm really excited. I am getting hungry. If you've never made steel cut oats in the Instant Pot, it is the easiest way to make them. I don't like making them on the stove because you have to stand and stir them the whole time so they don't burn. And in the Instant Pot, you just throw everything in there and it comes out perfect every time. I'm going to dish this up. Josh and I are going to have a beautiful breakfast on this day. The good thing about steel cut oats is they refrigerate really well and they reheat really well. So this is going to be a great breakfast for Josh and I on this morning. Plus, we're going to have some meal prep for the rest of the week. Now, the reason I wanted to have a nice breakfast on this day is I plan to spend the whole afternoon in the garden. So right after breakfast, I clean out my Instant Pot liner so that when I come in from the garden, I can get going on the dinner. We're going to make the pork tinga tacos, and we already have a bunch of the sides prepped for our tacos. So it's going to be a really easy way to have a delicious dinner tonight. Take the bone off. I didn't feel like doing that. I wanted no bone in there. So that is one thing I am deviating from the recipe a little bit. But the first thing we need to do is saute not saute, we're gonna turn on the saute function so we can sear our meat. I'm gonna put a little bit of avocado oil in here, let that get warm. Also this morning, before I went out into the garden to do the adventures, I went ahead and chopped up an onion that we're gonna need, and I got out all the spices that we're gonna need as well. So what I'm gonna do with my pork, they're in just random pieces, is I'm gonna season it really well with some salt. And then I've got some black pepper. And we're not looking to cook this pork all the way here. Right now, we're just looking to sear it. Oil is hot. I was a little skeptical on how well the Instant Pot was going to be able to sear the meat, and look at that, it turned out beautiful. I almost grabbed my cast iron out and seared the meat in the cast iron and then transferred it back to the Instant Pot, but I thought, no, that defeats the purpose. The goal is to try to do everything in the Instant Pot as much as possible, and I'm really glad I did because I'm super happy with that sear on that pork. Now what we're going to do while I'm waiting for it to sear, because it takes a couple rounds to get through all of the pork, is I pulled out some of these chipotles in adobo. I think I pulled out 3 or 4 of them. The recipe called for 1, but I love chipotles in adobo. If you've never had it, it's a smoked jalapeno in a vinegar sauce, and it is so good. Now what it says after I seared all the meat is I'm supposed to cook up 10 ounces of chorizo. This is a Mexican style pork sausage, and I got that browned up really well, and then I'm going to add the 1 onion that I diced up earlier today, and we're going to cook the onion and the pork. I already got the pork nice and browned. It's not fully cooked yet though, but it had one side that was good and brown, and now I'm going to saute the onions and the chorizo and get those nice and tender. I went out to the garden and I harvested some fresh thyme because the recipe calls for fresh thyme, which I just love thyme and I don't use it enough. So this was a good reminder of how much I enjoy it. I now add 2 pucks of garlic, and then we're going to add the rest of the seasonings here. I've got some salt. I haven't seasoned up the onions at all yet, and pepper. We're going to put, this is cumin here, and this is some freeze-dried oregano. We're going to get that crushed up. I freeze-dry my oregano in whole leaves, and so when I go to use it, I just crush it up. It's really easy because it's so dry and crumbly. A good amount of pepper, and then we are going to put we are going to put a pint of chicken broth in here, along with our chipotles that we diced up earlier. The recipe called for, I think, 1 cup of broth and 1 cup of water, but I went ahead and just used the whole quart of broth because, or not quart, I keep saying that, the whole pint of broth because I didn't want to put a half pint of broth in my refrigerator. I wasn't sure if I had another recipe I was going to be able to use that in, so I just threw the whole thing in and then I omitted the water. And I'm going to get the pork into the Instant Pot now that the onions and sausage are all sauteed. I put the juice from the pork in there as well, and then I will pour the broth right on top of it. Just like that. And then we're going to get the lid on, and we are going to set the timer for this. I do kind of nestle the pork into the broth there. Now I'm going to get the lid on this. I'm going to close the vent pipe, and we are going to put it on manual. Let's see. Manual. Oh, I have to turn off saute. And we're going to cook this for 1 hour. We're going to let this cook for 1 hour. We're going to let it naturally release its pressure, and then we will shred it up and serve dinner with all the other goodies we have made today. I just had another bite of this salsa, and it is incredible. So let's see if this meat is tender enough to shred it. Oh yeah, definitely tender enough to shred it. While our broth is separating, I can shred this up. If I see any big pieces of fat I'll go ahead and take those out. That's one reason why I wanted to go ahead and cut this up in the beginning, was so that I could kind of take any of the really big pieces out right away from the get-go. And I just realized I forgot to put lime juice in this when I first put it in here. So if it needs a little bit of a zing, we'll add that now. But first, we're gonna give it a taste test. I've never done anything like this before, where you've got your roast that you're making into shredded meat and you add a ground beef to it, or sausage to it, the chorizo. Wow. Very rich. Very warm and rich. That is really good. Now this is enough meat for Josh and I that I think I'm gonna take half of this meat and I'm gonna put it in the freezer, so that next time I want a quick taco night, I can just pull it out of the freezer, let it thaw, warm it up, and we'll have a beautiful dinner where I don't have to go through the effort of making this. This is a winner, but I do think I do want to add the juice of 1 lemon. I don't have lime right now, so if I had lime, I would do that, but lemon will work. Here you can see the grease line, and if you pour it from, the spout is at the bottom, so I can get the juice. There's a little bit of grease that will come in, but way less than the full amount. I'm gonna put about half this. I'm gonna take the rest of the cilantro that I harvested this morning and I'm gonna put that on top. I also whipped up a batch of fresh flour tortillas, and I can link this recipe down below if you're interested in it. These are incredible. We've got our homegrown lettuce, some peach hot sauce that I made last year. We've got our pickled vegetables, our delicious salsa, some sour cream cheese, and our Instant Pot dinner. I will let you know what Josh thinks of this dinner. And the next 2 recipes we are gonna be making are dinner recipes, and they are all in the crock pot. So this one was a little bit more labor intensive in that I was just making the meat, the main, in the crock pot. And then I had to, prepare all the condiments that go along with these tacos. But this is what Josh wanted for dinner tonight, and I actually had the time to make tortillas, to make some pico de gallo, so it worked out perfect. The next 2 recipes are great because they're all in one, like the last one we made, the chicken and rice one, where you put everything in the pot and it's all done. So I'm excited to try those next. Welcome back, friend. We just got back from spending the entire day at the pool, and we need a quick and fast dinner. I have legitimately done nothing to prepare for dinner tonight because I want to see how quickly this is going to come together. Tonight's dinner is beef stroganoff. All in one, noodles and everything are cooked right in the Instant Pot, and I'm excited to give this a try. I haven't collected any of the ingredients. I haven't even read through the recipe, except for what I read through, a couple days ago when I decided I wanted to make this. And I do know that you're supposed to saute the onion first. Well, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. I'm gonna saute the ground beef first because I know that I like my meat to be really browned really well. And when we did the other recipe, when we sauteed the onion first, it kind of steamed the meat, and I don't want to do that. So we're gonna saute it first. So this is one thing that I am switching up a little bit, but I will follow the main ingredients. So while the meat's sauteing, I will go around and I'll collect all the rest of the ingredients we need to make this dinner. So I just put some olive oil in the Instant Pot. Now I'm gonna get 1 pound of local grass-fed ground beef in there. We're gonna let that starting to cook. I'm gonna go wash my hands. veggie tonight, we are gonna keep it extremely simple. I went out into the garden this morning and harvested all of these snow peas. There is a ton here. We're gonna have fresh snow peas for dinner. I'm not gonna saute them, I'm not gonna do anything. I'm gonna wash all of them up. Some we'll eat for dinner tonight. The rest I'm gonna stick in the fridge for another night. I don't know if you've ever seen this trick before, but you take some paper towels to drain the meat, and you just use the paper towel to soak up the extra grease. I don't use paper towels a lot, but this is one application I really think it is a great way to use a paper towel. Then you just throw the whole paper towel away. I'm gonna leave just a little bit of the grease in there because I'm gonna use it to saute the onions and mushrooms. So now we're gonna get the onions in our pot. The traditional way I make stroganoff is with leftover roast. If I make a roast, I like to take that meat that's fall apart tender, a chuck roast, and then I use the broth that the roast made and I make stroganoff out of it, and I caramelize onions for a good 45 minutes. I saute the mushrooms until they're golden brown. I add red wine, and it's kind of a labor of love. So I'm excited to give this stroganoff recipe a try and see if it's a good stroganoff recipe for just a quick, easy dinner when I don't have a lot of time or I don't have leftover roast and we want the flavor of stroganoff. So Josh and I ate all those snow peas that I made the other night in one night because they're so good. So this might look like a lot, but these are garden fresh. I just harvested them this morning. These will last in the fridge for a good long time, but we will eat them. I'm not gonna blanch and freeze them or anything like that. I'll just make sure that snow peas are on the menu for the next little while. This is one of my produce bags. I love these things. This is the first of many harvests. We'll probably have 2 or 3 more harvests. No, probably 2 more harvests this size. The mushrooms are nice and sauteed, so now I'm gonna add some garlic, a little more pepper. We love pepper with stroganoff. A tablespoon of Dijon mustard, which I've never added to stroganoff before, so that's going to be an interesting addition. A tablespoon of Worcestershire. Normally I add probably a 1/4 cup, but we'll start, no, I'm going to add 2. So I am adding a little bit more than the recipe says. 2 tablespoons of that. A tablespoon of tomato paste. I'm gonna let the garlic melt and saute for a minute. The recipe says to add 1 10-ounce bag of egg noodles and 3 cups of broth. The noodles don't totally get cooked even though I follow the recipe exactly. I was talking to my sister-in-law about this, and she said anytime the broth or water is not covering the noodles fully in the Instant Pot, she always covers the noodles, or just make sure at least they've got a little bit of liquid covering them, and that ensures that they are fully cooked when the recipe is done. The recipe says it's fine if the noodles are not fully submerged in the liquid, because this is a pressure cooker, so it's going to cook it. I'm going to close this. Venting is off. I think it said it needs to pressure cook on high. Cook time on high for 6 minutes. So we're gonna put it on manual, or we have to reduce it. It was at 60 minutes. Now I have been in the kitchen for about 20 minutes from when this started because the meat had to saute. Well, maybe it's been about 15 minutes. I didn't look at the clock exactly when I got in here, but I think it's been about 15 minutes or so, but it's not been me actively doing stuff. I was able to get the peas washed and another project done. This just has to cook. We're gonna let it release pressure for 10 minutes, and then we'll open the pressure valve and we will add the sour cream. It says sour cream is optional. Josh and I love sour cream in our stroganoff, so we will put sour cream in it. Then we will give it the taste test. I'm super excited to try this. I wanted to tell you about yesterday's dinner. Josh really, really liked the dinner last night, and I'm gonna relook at the recipe. I was sitting in bed last night thinking about the tacos that we made, and I had this thought, I think I forgot to add an ingredient, because I've looked at so many of these different recipes that I was like, maybe I'm confused, but the pork tinga tacos on page 186, I was laying in bed and I was like, I think I forgot to add, I did. I was supposed to add one 14-ounce can of diced tomatoes with the liquid drained. I didn't do that, and it was just as delicious without it. I don't think if I ever made this again, which I would definitely make this recipe again, I would not add the tomatoes because I don't think it needs it. I think with everything else, it had plenty of good flavor. I can add fresh tomatoes. We had the pico de gallo. It was delicious. Now, I have one more recipe we're gonna be making out of this book tomorrow, or it actually probably won't be tomorrow. It'll probably be in a few days, just with how my schedule and life, and we've got some fun things planned for the next few days. But it is another one of these all-in-one recipes where you cook the starch and the protein and all of it in one, which I think is fantastic. So, I mean, yeah, that took 15 minutes, but I wasn't actively doing something the whole time for 15 minutes. Now, while this is venting and I'm in the kitchen for a few minutes, my dishwasher needs to be unloaded because it's clean. I'm gonna give the kitchen a little refresh. We'll be back to give this a taste test. We are at 12 minutes, so I'm going to, the noodles on the top of the pot did not seem like they were fully cooked. I'm gonna give this a try and see. I cooked it for the right amount of time it said, and I did the natural release for the right amount of time it said. The noodles are still a little al dente, which is fine, I think, because Josh is gonna be home in about 15-20 minutes. And this can just sit here, is just put the lid on. I'm not gonna recook it or anything, and I'm just gonna let it finish cooking this way. And it'll just kind of, the residual heat from the Instant Pot will help cook those noodles. That's really, really good. I still like my regular stroganoff better. That's one of Josh and I's ultimate favorite meals. So it's hard, you can't really compare the two because one of them is a labor of love, and this one is a really just get dinner on the table, enjoy a nice, hearty, warm, comforting meal. That's what this feels like to me. It's delicious. We will enjoy this, and I think that the noodles will be perfectly cooked by the time dinner is ready. Now, the way we like to serve it is dish it up in a bowl, put a dollop of sour cream on top, and we usually do sprinkle some more pepper on the top, and then we'll have our snow peas with it for dinner. So I will let you know how Josh likes this. I will let you know how Josh likes this after he tastes it, and then we will be back next time I'm in the kitchen making dinner. We are gonna be making another all-in-one Instant Pot recipe. So thanks for being here. I'll see you in a bit. We are back at it. It is many days since last time we have been in the kitchen cooking together. And that's because between the leftovers and some family parties we had over the weekend, I haven't had to do any cooking, but tonight I need to. And let me tell you, I am grateful for an easy meal tonight because I have been working at my computer all day. I have not been outside at all, and I want to spend the evening out in the garden. So let's get dinner going so we can spend the evening in the garden. So what I'm going to make today is chicken penne Alfredo in the Instant Pot. It is in this book on page 164, and this is my sister-in-law's, one of her favorite recipes from this book. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. The first thing I'm gonna do is push the saute mode. That seems how a lot of these recipes start. And we're gonna get 2 tablespoons of butter in the Instant Pot, and I have diced up 2 chicken breasts. Now this cookbook, a lot of the recipes say they serve 4, but what I have noticed is that Josh and I are getting about 6 servings from each of these meals because I'm serving a vegetable as a side. So we're getting about 6 servings per recipe. While I'm waiting for the Instant Pot to heat up so we can cook our chicken, I'm gonna go ahead and get the vegetable started right here. I've got some garden fresh zucchini, and we're gonna roast this in the oven for our side to go with our pasta. So I never told you what Josh thought of the stroganoff. He thought it was absolutely delicious, and he said that he would be happy if I made it again, which was awesome because it was really easy. We both agreed my original recipe is our favorite, but you know, sometimes you just want stroganoff and you don't have the time to, you know, make it the way you normally would make it. So here we're gonna go ahead and get our veggie side. I cut the zucchini and summer squash into these spears because I thought we'd make little fries. We're gonna roast these in the oven. I've never done it like this before, but I saw someone do this online and I'm kind of just vaguely following what they had done. These white-ish, grayish zucchinis, these are an Italian zucchini, and these are one of my new favorite varieties. They don't hold a lot of moisture and they keep their shape, so I definitely will grow them in the garden again, and they have been very prolific, and so I've been really enjoying them. I noticed when I cut the summer squash that there were more bigger seeds already, even though those were some pretty small summer squash. So I seasoned up these spears with garlic, salt, and pepper, and a little bit of Parmesan cheese and breadcrumbs. I have never put Parmesan cheese or breadcrumbs on zucchini spears to roast, but I saw someone do it and I thought I would try it. And I'm gonna lay them out kind of evenly so they're not overlapping, and I'm gonna put them in a 450-degree oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. I am trying to get the breadcrumbs and cheese onto the zucchini spears. So in that time, my butter melted and my Instant Pot is nice and hot. So we are gonna brown the chicken. I cut these in about bite-sized pieces, a little bit bigger than when we made the rice with the chicken because I wanted them to be a little bit more substantial. And now it said to put Italian seasoning. I don't have Italian seasoning per se, but I have homegrown, home freeze-dried oregano and basil, so I'm gonna add that. I add salt and pepper, and then we add a half box of rigatoni. I think the original recipe called for penne, but I prefer rigatoni. Same thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that. And then I am going to use some home canned chicken broth and some home freeze-dried garlic here. I do put a little bit more chicken broth in this recipe than the recipe calls for because I wanted to make sure that the pasta gets cooked fully the first time go around. And here is a little bit of nutmeg. The recipe did call for this, and that does add a really nice depth of flavor. That's really traditional in white sauces. I made sure this chicken got really, really browned. The whole entire bottom of that Instant Pot was pretty brown. I actually ended up taking the liner out of the Instant Pot and let the chicken just sit and kind of steam a little bit to release the fond off the bottom of the Instant Pot. I scraped up the brown bits, added the pasta here as you can see, and then we add some homemade chicken broth. And I just went with my sister-in-law's recommendation to add a little bit more broth than the recipe called for, and that turned out perfect. That was easy enough. Lid on. This is supposed to cook on high pressure. We're gonna cook this on high pressure for 5 minutes and let it naturally release pressure. It looks like in the time it took for the chicken to cook, our zucchini is done. I've never roasted zucchini in the oven like this where I put this coating on it. Looks fantastic, smells fantastic. I'm excited to dig into this. So I'm just gonna pull this out and let this cool, and we'll serve it up when dinner's ready. The moment of truth. Are these noodles perfectly cooked? Yep, they feel done, unlike the last ones. Even though that turned out just fine, it is nice to know that the noodles are all the way cooked from the get-go. So now what we're gonna do is add a few more ingredients, and this will help thicken up the sauce because I can see that there is a little bit of broth kind of hanging out in the side there, and I think these next few ingredients will help thicken it up. We'll just put all that in there. So we have cream cheese, Parmesan cheese, and a little bit of cream. and it said to stir it in and let it sit for about 2 minutes or so that all of the cheese can melt together. While I'm waiting for our pasta, I thought let's go ahead and give these zucchini fries a try. That is so good. That is definitely snackable. This has sat for a few minutes and our pasta sauce is creamy and rich and delicious. Our chicken looks perfectly cooked and tender. Our noodles are nicely cooked as well. So here I have a piece of chicken and a noodle. We're gonna give this a try. If you wanted to make this a complete meal, you could probably go ahead and open a bag of frozen broccoli or two and throw that in there as well. And you could cook your vegetable, your pasta, and your chicken all in one. It's hard to go wrong with Parmesan cheese, right? That is phenomenal. This might be one of our second favorite. I think our first favorite, well, they're a tie because the rice and this one are pretty similar, except this one has pasta and that one has rice, but they do have some of the same ingredients. Almost all the same ingredients, except for this one has cream cheese. Well, this has been a fantastic week of these Instant Pot recipes. I have learned a lot. I have definitely thought through how I want to start continuing to utilize my Instant Pot more. I have so many recipes in this book that I still want to try. I realize now that 2 of them are pretty similar, the rice and this one, but there are so many, like this pork chili verde. How yummy does that sound and does that look? There is chili in here. I've never made chili in the Instant Pot. I've never made a soup in the Instant Pot. And so there is just so many different, oh, this is even lemon chicken with Greek salad. That sounds delicious too. So I can link this book down below if you're interested and kind of explore the world of Instant Pots. One of the reasons why I've been really enjoying this pasta and the stroganoff and the rice is it's nice that I don't have to pull out another pot to boil the pasta, boil the rice, and do a separate pot for those types of things. It's just all in one. Now, I still probably prefer a really yummy homemade Alfredo where it's all separate, but on a night where you just need dinner quickly, this is great. It still took probably from start to finish 30-ish minutes, but of my actual time, working with it, it probably was a total of 10 minutes because mostly it was me just waiting on the Instant Pot. And I was able to get our side dish done and the dishwasher loaded and things like that while I was waiting on the Instant Pot. So thanks for hanging out with me as we made these recipes. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to watch more of my videos, I can pop some here. If you're new, please consider subscribing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. And I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friend.